Good evening, fans, and welcome once again to the Coach's Corner here on the campus of West Virginia State University. I'm your host, Lee France. On tap this week, a conversation with Ben Kearse, who we'll talk to, and also wide receiver Landon Johnson coming up here in just a matter of moments. But first, as we always do, we welcome head coach Earl Monroe in after a bye week on the schedule. Coach, probably a bye week that couldn't come at a better time for the Yellow Jackets.
No question. We had a lot of guys ailing. We had a chance to lick our wounds, so to speak, and try to get healthy for next week.
What were some of the things that the team focused on primarily in practice for these last couple of weeks?
Well, one of the main things, we're getting some guys to the trainer and getting them healed and try to get them 100%. Also, trying to concentrate on the things that we do and some of the mistakes that we've been making, trying to correct those. And we had a great week practice, and the guys seem to be focused, and hopefully we're ready. First home game, so we're excited about it.
You look back at last week's conference schedule, you guys had the, I guess, fortunate again to have the week off, but you look at Concord, they were able to beat Charleston. Glenville State needed overtime to beat Fairmont State. Shepherd had a blowout win, but I think the biggest surprise to me seems to be West Virginia Wesleyan. They were able to beat West Liberty at West Liberty even.
Yes, they're 4-0, and we got a chance to see their tape against Concord, which was a pretty good game. And they're playing really well, offensively and defensively. And they're going to be a tough team to play in a couple of weeks. This conference, man, I mean, there's some tough teams in this conference. You have to prepare every single week. And you can't look at last week and see who beat who and how much. You better prepare and get ready to play at 1 o'clock on Saturday.
You take a look at the conference standings, and you see that West Virginia Wesleyan's on top. A couple of teams, other teams 2-0 as well. You guys really, at mid-pack right now, you're still in this thing and in the hunt.
It's still early. You know,
yeah.
We're just 0-1 in the league. It's a 7-game season for us now, and hopefully we can get this thing turned around again. We got some rest this week. Hopefully the guys can get some confidence. We're home. We're excited about that. Hopefully the fans will come out and cheer us on, and we'll try to build off of that momentum from the fans. And hopefully we'll have a good turnout this weekend.
Concord's coming off that big win over Charleston. Any concerns there about a team coming off of a win coming into face you?
They're off a tough team. We've been watching the film for 2 weeks. They're pretty solid on offense. They give you a lot of formations, a lot of different plays. It's going to be a tough challenge for our defense. Defensively, they're big and strong up front. Also, they stole my defensive coordinator from last year, and Will King is coaching their defensive line. So he knows a little bit about us, so that's going to be a challenge as well. It's going to be fun as well. But it's going to be a tough challenge for us this weekend, and we hope to be up for the challenge.
You think anything other than having Will King over there, do you have to change? How much do you have to change now having a coach on the other sideline?
Well, it's funny. He had the same signals that I run. He had my defensive book when he was here. So we went with wrist cards on defense this week. So we bought the wristbands, and we're putting all our calls on the wristbands. We're going to give Coach King some dummy signals over there this weekend, and hopefully he falls for them. But it should be a fun matchup. But we did have to make some arrangements and some changes, and we are going to have our defensive calls on the wristbands this week.
Let's see if we take a look at some of the stats and we break down some of those in the first 3 games. Your rushing yards for you, again, we've mentioned it all 3 weeks, 116 yards total to 828 on the ground. How can you, or what do you do to get that corrected and get that more balanced?
Well, we just have to keep working at it. I mean, again, we keep using that cliche, we're young up front, but those guys are starting to gel, they're starting to communicate and starting to come around. Coach Shaw is making some adjustments over there in what we run and what we do. And we actually got one of our freshman offensive line recruits back this week. He's never played. He just finally cleared the clearinghouse. And he's going to be a big plus for us. He's a tackle. Hopefully we can work Derek Isaac is his name. Hopefully we can work Derek in, and he'll help us improve the depth over there on the offensive line, and we can get a running game going.
Now you look at the other side and you have passing as far as that goes. You're doing well there. You're about 100 yards per game allowing on the opposing team. What stands out there? And I know the University of Charleston's part of that. They don't pass a whole lot, so that helped hold that number down. But you still got to be pleased with the way your team's responded to the pass game.
I mean, we are somewhat, and we're ranked in the nation, and I hear all those things, ranked in the nation against the pass, but you're 0-3, so that stat is kind of misleading. And when people are gashing you on the run, they don't have to throw the football. So that's one stat that we're kind of, looking at a little bit. But we've got to improve our run defense and our run offense for us to be effective.
Something else that stood out to me, and maybe it stood out to you as well as I looked at it, defense is allowing 6.4 yards per play. That kind of puts you at a disadvantage if they're getting 6.4 yards. Now it brings up second and short, third and short type of situation.
No question, and that's a lot of yards. And we try to pride ourselves on not giving up big plays. We want to make people drive against us. And we've given up some big plays in the first 3 games, and it's really upsetting. And we like to, 20 yards or less a play, and we've got several plays that's well over 20 yards. So we have to make sure that we're pursuing in the right angles and we're doing the right things to try to keep those runs or passes to a minimum, and that will help us a long way.
For a young team, you've only committed 5 penalties through the first 3 games, about 44 yards per game. Of course, every coach says no penalties, but for a young team, where's your mind at when you hear only 5 penalties a game?
That's really good. I think in the past we've been one of the top penalized teams in the conference, and so that's good, especially if we can cut down some of those big 15-yard, undisciplined type penalties. You're going to get some penalties during the course of a game, but just those that we call the unnecessary, stupid penalties, hopefully we can keep those eliminated. It gives us a chance to stay in the ball game.
Now, time of possession, you look at time of possession, sometimes that can tell you one thing or the other, but you're only separated by maybe 15 seconds between that. What does that say to you?
Again, another misleading stat.
Yeah.
We've had some really good drives. I mean, we've had some really good drives. We've gotten in the red zone, and we weren't able to capitalize sometimes in the red zone. And then we've had people get some really fast drives against us. So, you have to be able to analyze that stat and for what it's worth, and sometimes it can be misleading.
Third down conversions seem to be maybe not where you need it to be. 13 out of 38, 34% through the first 3 games. Again, knowing what you know about your team and third down conversions, how does that strike you?
Well, again, if you can't run the football, the guys can kind of dictate on defense what they need to do against you and how they need to defend you. So until we can get both parts of the offensive game going, that's going to be pretty tough when you get in the third down situation. Now everybody knows you're going to pass. They're able to defend us. So, again, we have to get that running game going so it will open up the pass as well as some of the other things that Coach Shaw wants to do on offense.
The team's been held scoreless so far in the second quarter. You've scored 35 points all season so far in 3 games. Any indications when a team doesn't score in the second quarter, to you at least, as the head coach?
No, I just think it's been a field position thing, just coincidence maybe. We've got to actually be able to kick the ball and change that field position so we are able to get in scoring position.
One name we haven't mentioned, and he leads your team on rushing, is Michael Thompson this season. Tell me a little bit about him, if you will.
Mike is a kid we recruited out of Michigan, and he's done a really good job for us, but he had a few nagging injuries. He had nagging hamstrings a year ago, ankle injury in the spring. He's had a chance to heal up a little bit this week. Hopefully he'll come in 100%. Fabian Payne's another good running back that's had some nagging injuries, and hopefully he's 100%. And those guys are frustrated as well as we are. Being a running back and not able to get the running game going is pretty frustrating. So hopefully we can get that part of the offense going this week, and hopefully it'll carry us to victory.
Home game against Concord this week, fans. 1 o'clock kickoff at Lakin Field. Time now to take a break. We will return with wide receiver Ben Kearse after, again, this timeout.